Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-hosts, Vern Glenn, FP Santangelo Jr., and Russell Jackman. And at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And since we are in the NBA Finals, have to have at least one more week of NBA questions. Then we'll probably move on.
I can go 3-0 again.
Yeah, maybe. I'll let me just take a quick look here and see how hard these questions are. These are a little harder there, my friend.
Bring them on.
We have to go back to the 1600s for this one. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, definitely a few topics to talk about. The Saudi golf tournaments that are going on, and we'll talk about the players who are going in. I do have a quick question for you guys about how the umpires are barring position players to pitch. I don't get this. Okay. Carolina Panthers hired their first transgender cheerleader. And along those same lines, St. Louis pitcher Jack Flaherty is publicly calling out Rays players who opted out of wearing Pride Month logos on their uniforms during the game. Wanted to get your take on that. And, of course, we have to talk about the Celtics Warriors, which at the recording of this show, the series is tied 1-1. If you noticed, it seemed like the Celtics kind of did what the Warriors were kind of known for, throwing the ball away. That was very uncharacteristic of them in game 2. But, boy, what a game. What a first game with the lead changing, 10 points here, 14 points there. Pretty exciting. Yeah. Definitely going to be good.
One more thing we got to touch on, too, that new Aaron Donald contract.
Yes.
I got some numbers for you that we can compare it to.
Excellent. All right. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. This segment is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments yielding over 6%. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, FP Santangelo there, Russell Jackman there, and I know Vern's coming on the Bluetooth pretty soon here. Go ahead, FP. Where do you want to start?
Well, we can't bury the lead. The number one story in sports right now is the NBA Finals between the Celtics and the Warriors. Game 1, the Celtics had probably one of the best fourth quarters I've ever seen in a NBA game, let alone in an NBA Finals game. It was absolutely incredible. They did not miss. They were playing some of the best defense I've ever seen in NBA Finals history. It was awesome. It was such a good game. It kind of makes me upset.
Game 1? There was no game 1. There was no game 1. I've erased that completely from my memory banks. All I remember is there was a game 2 that was worth watching.
Well, let me get to game 1 and then game 2. We got to bridge them together. Yeah. Game 1 was incredible. Everyone was saying it was a blowout. I disagree. It was a great game to the very end. And then you just saw a team have the quarter of their life. So it was pretty incredible. Then you saw probably a normal game in game 2 where the Warriors just executed. They hit their shots. They did what they were supposed to do. And then they throttled the Boston Celtics. They made their adjustments. Championship teams make adjustments. And I think that's kind of what the baseline of what you're going to see for the rest of the series personally. I mean, I tweeted out the other night that it took the Celtics to have the best fourth quarter in NBA Finals history to beat the Warriors. Otherwise, the Warriors probably would have won game 1 too. We'll see how it goes in game 3. It's going to be finicky being in Boston, but that's the way that I see it. So,
well, and Boston's known for their defense, so they definitely came through on that.
What I was telling some of my friends is that, you look at the three-point shooting contest. There you have the league's best three-point shooters, okay? And they're all by themselves, right? You can't get them to shoot 9 for 12 from three-point range during the three-point shooting contest. So I don't know how Boston thinks they'll ever have 9 for 12 in a quarter again from three-point range. That was just something that is you put that in a bottle and you'll never see that again. And Boston can't find a way to be consistent from outside the three-point range. You look at guys like Derek White. He's a three-point. His three-point average is 31%. Horford is more like about 35%. He isn't going to go 6 for 6 from three-point range. Now, he's probably not going to score 2 points again only, but, that was the Warriors absolutely adjusting, and the greatness of Steve Kerr to know how to make those adjustments so that he didn't get burned by Horford again.
And the greatness of Draymond Green too, just getting underneath the Boston Celtics skin and their fan base too, at that matter. My goodness, were they really upset?
So let me ask
I never thought that Boston would hate a person more than Bill Laimbeer, but I think it's been done.
So let me ask you, if Draymond had not gotten technical number 1, what do you think would have happened? He would, it looks like they purposely didn't want to give him 2 technicals to get him thrown out.
Oh, he would have gotten.
I thought that was a mutual thing. I mean, they both shoved each other. If anything, it would be a double technical, but not in the finals. It's crazy. I think that we learned something back in 2016 that that having a hair trigger and eliminating someone is something that's still controversial today. That ejection of Draymond is still controversial. And you know what? Boston needs to beat a fully active Warriors team, not count on the refs for Draymond.
And if I remember correctly, wasn't it Draymond whose legs were over Jaylen Brown? I mean, it was such a non thing. It's not like he stepped on him or anything. It looked like he was trying to get his legs out, and I'm glad they took away the technical, or I guess it was
Jordan Poole.
On Jordan Poole, yeah. I mean, he looked like he was protecting himself. So, I don't think these guys, I mean, I'm not a professional basketball player, but I can't imagine they're thinking the whole time, okay, what can I do to injure this person or hand? I know
it's not about injury. It's more of like, let me really throw this guy off his game by being an absolute problem or borderline towing that line of fouling and being overly aggressive. And that's what Draymond Green did. I mean, my goodness.
Okay.
Even as a Warriors fan, you have to admit some of the blocks he was setting, he looked like a tight end out there. It was insane. Yeah. It was crazy to watch, but he really got underneath the skin of a lot of players and he got underneath the skin of a fan base. And that's what Draymond Green does. He gets the attention on him and away from Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole and all those other guys. So that way they can do their job. And everyone's worried about Draymond doing this, Draymond doing that. My goodness, this, that. And he's a punk and he's a this and he's a that. It's awesome. It's great.
Klay really, I mean, he's hardly put up anything yet,
Yeah, he has not shown up, which is a thing that a lot of Warriors fans are putting in their back pocket. But he really needs to show up eventually if they want to win this thing. I mean, this team is still really good. I'm not saying it's going to be a cakewalk by any means for the Warriors, but I think we saw a more realistic game 2 than game 1.
That's because GP2 is a bigger factor. He wasn't playing in game 1. And with GP2 back, you can afford to have Klay be subpar because you can put GP2 in, and he is a huge difference maker. You watch in Boston what GP2 is going to do. And I think that he's going to be one of the huge factors that changes the series.
The bench is so deep that you get these guys rested and they can come back like a flurry. That's why it's very interesting how the Warriors, it's like the third quarter always seems to be their big quarter. Well, they've had a nice half to rest. Werner, how's your microphone working? No, you're still not there. You're just being a spectator now.
Yeah, it's still not working, Vern. I would try to exit and then reopen it.
Yeah, we see your pretty face, but I can't lip read, unfortunately.
He can hold up signs. He can write a sign and we can read it out loud.
Okay, so Vern went out. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to come back in. It looked like he was outside. And, who knows, maybe if his Wi-Fi was acting kind of weird. Okay, anything else you want to cover basketball-wise before we move on?
Well, I think just watch how the referees call this next game. I'm going to be interested to see if they call it a little bit more tighter after all those viral posts of Draymond setting those very questionable blocks, let's just put it that way, and getting away with some things that maybe otherwise he wouldn't. Just the next game and how that's going to affect the foul calling. It's going to affect the game. Maybe Draymond goes to the bench a little early because he has too many fouls, stuff like that. I think it's really going to set the tone for that game. But I think the Warriors succeed if they end up just splitting that series in Boston. That's a win. If they get one win in Boston, that's huge.
And
Boston is going to play like a caged animal on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Boston is going to be like a trapped, cornered, caged animal. They're going to fight for their lives. They do not want to lose game 3.
Yep.
Yeah, and economics-wise, I think behind the scenes, they're probably saying, "Hey, listen, don't be throwing people out. It's not good for Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why anybody calls on that line. Nobody ever calls on that line. Okay. Let's see here. One quick thing before we cut to our break. Umpires, apparently they barred using a position player to pitch. Why did the umpires even get involved in that? It's a coaching decision.
Well, no, it's always been a rule in Major League Baseball that you need 5 runs or more to be able to put in a position player.
Why? I mean, if a guy's if a guy can pitch, now remember the Jose Canseco kind of, he hurt his arm and all that, but I mean, any player should be able to play any position. If you want to throw him in as catcher, that's up to you. Why? I don't get it. Well, why?
If they're not on the roster as a pitcher, so for example, Shohei Ohtani's on the roster as a pitcher and a DH, that's fine. He could go back and forth, right, in a position player. But if you're not listed, it's a Major League Baseball rule and has been that you can't come in unless there's 5 more runs or more.
Okay, so you have to specifically say you can only have so many pitchers on the roster?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge rule. Or otherwise, everybody would be a pitcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but okay, so everybody's a pitcher. It's
a rule. It's like a rule in college, too. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It hurt the Dodgers, so I was okay with it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, they're already conceding the game anyways. It's really like – it's more of a Dave Roberts – I think he knew what was going on. He was trying to bend the rules.
Okay. Well, it's the same thing.
He used 7 pitchers in the game already, so he didn't want to use an 8th pitcher.
Well, but also it's the same thing where it's like, they're saying, oh, you can't do it. They're talking about like not being able to do a shift or something. I say if you want to put everybody in the outfield, you should be able to do that. Okay, guys, we're getting to our first commercial break trivia question here. What New York Knicks guard went 0 for 11 from 3-point range during Game 7 of the 1994 NBA Finals against the Rockets, greatly contributing.
You said this is a hard trivia question?
Well, this one will be a little easier. All right, stay with us. Okay. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Vern Glenn, SP Santangelo Jr., and Russell Jackman, and we do have Vern Glenn on the air right now.
Let's go.
Okay, what New York Knicks guard went 0 for 11 from 3-point range during Game 7 of the 1994 NBA Finals against the Rockets?
Was it John Starks?
It was John Starks. Very good.
Right.
Now, Russ, I knew you knew that one, right?
Yeah, I think
of course he did.
Of course he did. Yeah,
it was until the Houston Rockets turned around and then had their 0 for 21 3-point effort against the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. That was probably the biggest choke move that I'd seen from 3-point range for any team.
Yeah, which game was that again?
In the NBA playoffs.
Well, the New York Knicks one was
Game 7.
Game 7. All right.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so let's move on to golf for a little bit here because there's been a lot of stuff going on in the golf world. So Dustin Johnson changes his mind about playing in the Saudi golf tournament. And apparently, someone had tweeted out that he might make more in this one tournament. Now, he's a good player, of course, but he might make more in this one tournament than between 10 to 15 years worth in the NBA, potentially.
Well, there's so much money in it. I mean, did you see what Mickelson is getting just for showing up?
25 million.
I'm sorry. No. 200 million just to show up. 200 million.
Yeah. That's 200 million up front. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, that's generation wealth before he even swings a club. 200 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to walk away from that. And he says, he's denied speculation that it was his gambling habit that made the decision for him, because apparently he lost $40 million worth of gambling between 2010 and 2014. And apparently he's, been cured of it. He claimed.
He addressed that in an interview. He said that, it was embarrassing and I made bad choices, but trust me, my family is financially sound now and forever will be. So, don't worry about him.
Yeah, I believe it. That in 2014. If he's really stopped since then, that's a good period of going without gambling. So my prediction is that it seems like the PGA is really kind of getting hard on these guys if they're going to this Saudi tournament, right? Mm-hmm. But my prediction is if you get too many of these guys to jump ship, that at some point the PGA is going to we'll let you back in, because there's no way they're going to stop too many of these good players from going. I mean, that'll just ruin golf for the PGA, don't you think?
Well, because
Just wait.
Phil Mickelson has won 6 majors in his career. You're automatically invited to play in future major events for years to come. I believe there's a 10-year exemption for that. So
yeah, but couldn't they could change the rules though. They could, the PGA could probably, put an exception to that.
Oh, you mean like bottom of the ninth? Oh, we're going to change the rule now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been in place for years.
But I don't mean just, the Masters. I mean, weren't they kind of blackballing these guys and effectively saying, listen, you can't play in this Saudi league? Weren't they doing that?
Well, they were just trying to strong arm players to remain with the PGA Tour. And one of those things, hey, if you jump ship, then forget about coming back.
Exactly.
And at the 11th hour, a lot of these guys that were thinking about it stayed with the PGA Tour, and Mickelson was just hung out to dry.
Yeah, plus, but there's too much money. I mean,
plus he made those terrible comments that really forced him to kind of get off the grid. So. But I mean,
when everyone is paying $10 a gallon for gas, you can think about the $200 million that Phil Mickelson is earning, and just give him a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Saudi Arabia.
The winners share at these events is $4 million. The winner's share. I mean, that's a lot of money to just turn your back on.
NBA, PGA, is it like $1 million that they get?
Anywhere from 1.5 to 2.1 depends on the tournament.
Okay. I mean, so this is double, which is it's still a lot of money, but it's not 200 million though.
Yeah. So it's the first event will be in London in a matter of a few days, or as we air this program, it will be ongoing. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But boy, money talks, man.
It does.
More than ever.
I don't know how many golf courses there are in Saudi Arabia. There's definitely a lot of sand traps.
Well, no. It's a world tour.
I get
Norman is like the head of it, but they play all over.
Yeah,
London, United States. It's not Saudi Arabia.
No, but so I think that from a
they just had the Saudis just had the money to back it.
Sure. Yep. I think from a psychological standpoint, though, it definitely distances themselves in a way, right? Oh, yeah, it's a Saudi tournament, but we're playing in London, or we're playing in Australia. They're playing in all these places that are not, specifically. You don't think of Saudi Arabia when you think of playing in London, for example.
Well, that's the whole point. They're trying to make it like a world tour to begin with.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of golf courses in Saudi Arabia.
That's the point.
And the thing is, it's like
one big sand trap.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. Yeah, and I mean, I get the the human rights issue that everyone brings up, but don't they kind of bring up a lot of that stuff in the United States too? Like how we treat one class of people versus another, and I'm not.
Yeah, we cut reporters' heads off all the time for reporting stories. We kill reporters all the time.
Well, okay,
things we don't like.
It's a little different over there. They play by different rules.
True. I guess what I'm getting at is, when we talk about social justice causes, it's sort of like when we go into Rwanda or someplace and we say, listen, this is wrong, and we have to be the world's police to protect all of the genocide in some country, right? I mean, we do pick and choose. But
we also have the freedom of speech over here.
Sure.
Not so much over there.
I know, I agree. There's definitely a huge difference. And like I said, I am not.
And who was responsible for 9/11? Who was responsible for 9/11? Rwanda?
Osama bin Laden. No, Osama bin Laden, who was a contractor from Saudi Arabia. The guy's like a general contractor. Yeah.
They just play by a different set of rules.
But
it's not morally like we play by some certain rules over here that are not morally okay, and they really play by a different set of rules that are not morally okay. And that's just how it is at the end of the day.
I get it. There was one quick thing before we go to another break. I was going to bring this up last time, but we didn't have enough time. The U.S. men's and women's soccer pay deal. Wasn't there some kind of shift going on in there? Was there?
I'm unaware.
Vern, probably.
Well, the women want a ruling that would give them equal pay to the men. moving forward. But I thought that was months ago that thing came down. I don't know why. I don't know why it's a big deal now. Unless it's about now where these matches are being played and these people have to be paid. I don't know, but that agreement was months ago.
I mean, listen, no offense to, this is not a man-woman thing, but it's an economic thing. It's, it's like if, for example, I mean, this is a little bit crude, but let's say mud wrestling. I'm guessing mud wrestling, women would get paid more than men, because more people would want to see that, versus the other.
Well, isn't this like because the women's soccer teams are way more popular than the men's soccer team here in the United States? It's way more profitable. Like, people care about the women's soccer team here in the U.S. because they actually win.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot more than the men's. Like, I can't name anybody on the men's soccer team. I know a lot of people on the women's soccer team.
So then, but where's the money side of it? Is the sponsorship? It's just like people are not watching on TV, because a lot of the stuff it's revenue generated.
Well, it's just Team USA isn't paying, and then they have to go out and get their own sponsorship and their own Nike deals, their own Gatorade commercials and stuff. And they feel like they should be compensated for their pay in the tournaments that they're winning and the representation on the team. And they're getting paid less, and the U.S. men's soccer team is a dud every year. I know they're playing in the World Cup this year, but typically they're a dud, and they'll probably exit in the first round. But USA women, they win. They've won historically. They are dominant. People around the world know who they are. It's
okay. Well, I mean, I'm definitely, equal pay for equal.
That's why this is it's a very interesting case, because the women should be getting paid more because they're way more popular.
Exactly. I mean, they literally should get paid more if they're bringing more income in.
Yeah. That's why this is kind of a disgrace. At the end of the day, it's a huge disgrace.
I don't know. It seems so strange in today's world to underpay women if they're earning, if they're bringing in more. It's like, let's say a stockbroker, right? A woman stockbroker. Actually, you know what? Women car salespeople, as car salesmen, quote, saleswoman, do usually much better than men. Mostly, I think, because people trust women. On average, they trust women more than men. And so when you're buying a car, a saleswoman is usually going to be a lot more profitable than a man.
It's a societal and egotistical issue at the end of the day. Like, Team USA men will not take being paid less than the women for an answer. They'll always want to ask for more money. They'll always feel like
what is it? I can't stand that. It's like these guys with these ego things. Listen, if my wife made more than me, I'd be great. I'll put an apron on and do the dishes.
I don't care. I say that all the time. I'll take care of the kids.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's a lot harder job.
Hard job.
Being a mother is the hardest job in the world, and it should be the most respected. Okay, guys, we're going to go to our second commercial trivia question on the NBA. Let's see if you can get this one, Mr. Jackman. Which NBA player was the first to win 2 NBA Finals MVP awards? Which NBA player was the first to win 2 NBA Finals MVP awards? And we'll give you extra credit if you can name the years.
Okay.
Once you know the player, I'm sure you'll know which team he played for. Again, it's not an unknown name. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, F.P. Santangelo Jr., Mr. Vern Glenn, and Russell Jackman. Trivia question number 2. Which NBA player was the first to win 2 NBA Finals MVP awards? Vern, who do you think?
My first thought is Bill Russell.
That would have been my first guess too. But
my second thought would have.
My guess is John Havlicek.
No,
my guess is John Havlicek.
You got the wrong teams, guys.
Oh,
okay.
LeBron James.
What's that?
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
No, before him. Okay, I'll give you.
Here's my last question. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
No.
Man.
Okay. Let me give you the years first. 1970 and 1973. That probably won't help you. But I'll give you the team. I believe.
Was it Walt Frazier?
No, but I think he did play for the. Did he play for the New York Knicks or the Bullets? I can't remember. I think
he played for the Knicks. Frazier?
No, Walt Frazier played for the Knicks. I can't remember this guy.
I said that.
I remember this guy, but I just can't remember if he played for the Bullets.
Well, in 70, the Knicks beat the Baltimore Bullets. In 73, the Knicks won again.
Okay, so I think he did play for the Knicks then, I think. Come on. Okay.
Willis Reed?
Yes.
No.
Willis Reed.
Was it?
Yeah. He play for the Knicks, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And yeah, he's the one. He's the one that famously limped out of the locker room and inspired the rest of his players to go on and win the title because he was playing hurt. That
guy was a scary dude. I mean, there's some players and they come on the court, you just you have a fear of them. I mean, I love the guy. As a basketball player, but it's like I wouldn't want to guard him.
It's amazing to know that Boston had so many titles and that they didn't have back-to-back MVPs is kind of surprising.
Yeah, that is. Okay, so let's go a little woke right now, guys. Okay, so the Carolina Panthers hired their first transgender cheerleader. What's that all about?
Who cares? Good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next topic already.
Okay, all right. St. Louis pitcher Jack Flaherty is publicly calling out some Tampa Bay Rays players who opted out of wearing LGBTQ Pride Month logo during the game. So, should players who disagree with, whatever the situation is, be forced to wear a logo? What do you guys think?
No, I mean it's their choice. There's 5 Tampa players who opted to not participate on Pride Night, and right, wrong, whatever, it was their right to not participate.
Well, and the statement that one of them made, I thought was at least very respectful. He was trying to be very non-judgmental and just, said, listen, I'm not trying to judge anybody. It's just, I am not supportive of this. And it could have been, could have been any kind of situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with that? With what Vern said?
Hey, this is America. It's the greatest country on earth. If you want to do something, if you don't want to do something, you should have the right to do it. Yeah. And you should have the right to face those consequences if something really provokes, society. Like, for example, if they're going to have some fallout because of this, that's something they're going to have to wear. Like,
true.
Metaphorically.
True. But you're right. They shouldn't get thrust upon them.
Exactly. If they feel that strongly about it, that's what they are at the end of the day. That's fine. If they're that strong in their beliefs, I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the First Amendment and your right to do anything as an American citizen. I really believe in that. I don't believe with that. My beliefs don't align with that. I love Pride Night. I think it's great that we can represent a community in a positive way, in an impactful way. That means a lot to that community. Uh-huh. But if that doesn't really align with their beliefs, hey, freedom of speech, great.
And you're right, from freedom of speech standpoint, it's also they do run the risk, because it is freedom of speech, that they're going to get some backlash for it. And I mean, they're willing to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, some people are going to.
Guys, I have to remind you that freedom of speech does not apply when you're talking about a private business. And so you don't have freedom of speech if the league says that you're not allowed to ignore this particular event, because think about all the customers who are, LGBTQ, and how insulted they are that these people consider it a lifestyle and a choice, and that it isn't something that you can just ignore. I'm actually very much against these players ignoring this, and I think they should be fined for being out of uniform.
But what if they had let's say either a Muslim night or an anti-Muslim night, and just said that's what we're going to promote, anti-Muslims, because of what happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
What about that? I mean, private business, we're going to force this upon people.
Well, Russ is right. They have to wear the uniform if the business says so. But then also, it is freedom of speech. These players can speak out without prosecution, right? And if they want to speak out and they face the consequences again, right, maybe the business lets them go. We've seen that.
They can't be prosecuted by the government, but the business itself can take whatever steps they want to fine or suspend these people for being out of uniform.
Yeah, but the thing is, but when they first signed up, though, the uniform wasn't that way, right? I mean, and I know like when sometimes,
but when the league decides to change the uniform, if the league decides to change the uniform, you can't go out, you know, and if you're with the Nationals, you can't go out and play wearing a Montreal Expos uniform, you know, and say, well, that's what the uniform used to look like. You know, you have to wear what everybody else is wearing because that's what a uniform is.
Well, except that so they have allowed players, let's say basketball players, to wear certain shoes, you know, or to have something on their back. I mean,
but that's up for the league to decide, not the individual players. The league has to allow that. I mean, they don't even let you have socks that are different lengths, you know, so the league has plenty of control over this sort of stuff. And if you don't like it, then fine, but they can fine you for that. And I have no problem with them fining people for not adhering to the
that's where I disagree with Russ. Russ is completely correct with everything he's saying. I think it'd be horribly wrong to fine these people because they're just exercising their opinions. And if it doesn't align with mine, but I think it's very important as a society we have these conversations and find out the reason why they believe so strongly in this. So that way we better understand each other and find some middle ground eventually.
I mean, what about forcing Gabe? What about forcing?
You don't have a right to.
For us, what about forcing? Let's say forcing Gabe Kapler to come out for the national anthem. Should they be able to do that?
Well, the thing is that's a different situation as far as like whether or not you're showing support for something or whether you're trying to, you know, alienate somebody or trying to, you know, tell them, saying to your paying customers that you don't respect them because of who they are. Now, that's not something that Gabe is doing, but it is something that I feel that the Florida Marlins players are doing.
Okay, what if they change? What if they change the? Wait, hold on. What if they change the uniform and everybody has to wear a MAGA hat?
It's true. These are the extremes. He's playing a devil's advocate, but
yeah, I mean, right? I mean,
where does it stop? Where does it stop? But what would happen though if that were the case? Everybody would quit. There would be a protest, right? And that's where it's happening. There's a mini protest within the Tampa Bay Rays organization. They came together as a group. You're always stronger as a group, and they've voiced their opinion. Now, if the team wants to enforce that, the team will enforce that. If they'll get fined, they'll get fined. If Major League Baseball wants to come down, they could do that. I think personally that's wrong. I have all the gay friends here in San Francisco.
Oh, so do I. So do I. But the thing is, again, like you're taking, it's one thing if, let's say, the Tampa Bay Rays as an organization wants to donate money to Pride. Okay, that's their right to do it. That has nothing to do with the players per se playing. When you're suddenly changing the uniforms and telling people you have to do this, you have to do that. If you want to do it on a corporate level and take the risk that you're either going to help or hurt your brand name, I mean, you have the right to do that. But to take your employees and force them to do something that may or may not go against their beliefs seems to kind of go outside the realm.
Well, for example, if you're at work right now in the Bay Area, you're forced to actually like take some sort of test or show, like the vaccination stats isn't doing it anymore. You have to take a test in some cases, right, to get back into work now. Yeah. While we're all the way through this and it's showing that the COVID is not as deadly as it used to be, right?
Sure.
That might go against some beliefs, but everybody has to comply.
You know what? Okay, now here's interesting because again, you're talking to someone who, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I have not been vaccinated, but I would actually not have a problem. I'd have a problem if my employer forced me to get vaccinated, but I would not have a problem if my employer said, listen, if you're not going to get vaccinated, whether or not the vaccine works, we want to make sure that we believe people are, quote, healthy, that you have to at least take a test. It's almost the same thing. Hey, listen, during flu season, forget COVID. Almost during flu season, I'd want my employer to say, listen, before anyone comes back to work, you have to show that you're healthy.
Yeah, I was just bringing up, like, you need to comply to certain standards within the workplace. It's always been like that for everything. Russ is right. I don't believe they should fine him, though. I don't think they are. No. They're not going to go against the other half of their fan base that's very, very conservative. So Major League Baseball is going to allow these players to do what they want, just so that way there's some give and take. There's been a lot of Black Lives Matter recently in Major League Baseball. There's been a lot of other things that have been promoted in Major League Baseball that conservative folks wouldn't really believe. in their core values.
Yeah.
Now there's got to be a little give and take, and there's got to be some middle ground reached. And I think that's the beautiful part about America. Is it right or wrong? That's how you strongly believe. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans and we have these rights. And I think it's beautiful. Now, Russ is completely right with the private business thing. They can do what they want. And he's completely correct. So please don't get that twisted. But
well, there's some legal regulations within private businesses, what you can do. Probably wearing, wearing the something on your uniform to promote something probably is not an illegal or legal type thing. It's like I said, they can
spend a lot of your life away when you don't know it. When you're agreeing to these business practices and safety regulations and stuff like that, when you agree to something and you sign on the dotted line, you're essentially saying we can fire you, or we can fine you, or we can withhold pay if you don't align with our beliefs as a company. That happens a lot, but you still sign it anyways because you just like, whatever, I'm not going to read this.
No, but I could definitely see the Rays basically saying, hey guys, listen, we want to support Pride Month, and it would be great if you wore this thing to help support it. But if you don't, you don't, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the direction.
Are we talking about where? Isn't it like a patch?
Yeah.
We're talking about a patch here, right?
Yeah.
It's the silliest thing. My honest opinion, it's colors, man. It's just colors. Just wear the colors. It's not a big deal, right?
Well, what's funny is they took over. I mean, the rainbow actually is more biblical, which is more conservative, right? It's from Noah's Ark, basically God promising never to flood the earth again. And so they hijacked the colors.
They invented rainbows before they had the Bible.
There was rainbows before the Bible.
Well, no, we're talking.
What about the leprechauns and their rainbows? Anyways, guys, subject real quick. I want to bring this up if we have some time. Aaron Donald got paid $95 million, okay, for his reworked contract over the next 3 years. And I want to put that in perspective. That makes him the highest paid non-QB right now in the NFL. The Rockies' third starter, Kyle Freeland, who has a 4.53 ERA, is getting the same amount of guaranteed money over 5 years as Aaron Donald.
Wow. Amazing. Hey, guys, let's get to our last trivia question here. Which NBA player was the first winner of the NBA Finals MVP despite being on a losing team? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back with some closing comments. All right. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with FP Santangelo Jr., Vern Glenn, and Russell Jackman. Last trivia question. Which NBA player was the first winner of the NBA Finals MVP despite being on the losing team?
Was it Jerry West?
It was.
Whoa.
Wow, you are fast.
Can you give me the year?
1972?
No, 1969.
69. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But that was good, though. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, you got 2 out of 3. That's good. That'll get you in the Hall of Fame.
I'll take it.
He wasn't there for the first one.
And then, well, no, he knew John Starks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Ready? Here's our thoughts for the day. So my wife got me a jar of dirt for my birthday. I told her I appreciated the sentiment. Okay, we got to laugh out of Vern. We got to smirk.
That's a good one.
And Russ, we can't see what Russ is doing. Okay.
And it's probably for good reason.
Yeah, and I accidentally swallowed a bunch of Scrabble tiles. My next trip to the bathroom could spell disaster. I like that one. All right.
Very good.
Very good. You like that? Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Hold on.